Welcome to Blueprint Narratives, the official channel of indiaartanddesign.com, exploring the intricate layers behind architectural and design projects, one story at a time. Whether it's groundbreaking projects, innovative designs, or artistic expressions, each episode uncovers the depth of thought and craftsmanship behind these creations. Over to our aesthete crew, who will take this conversation forward.
Welcome back to Blueprint Narratives, the official podcast channel for indiaartanddesign.com. This is episode number 15. And today, well, we're diving into something truly unique. Innovative Midway shelters designed for pilgrims on their journey to Sabarimala.
It's not just about putting a roof over someone's head. It's about creating an experience. These shelters, designed by creative architects and interiors, are a fascinating study in how architecture can enhance a spiritual journey.
And we're going to unpack all of that today, thanks to a fantastic article by India Art and Design. We'll be sure to share the link so you can check out the images too. But first, let's set the scene. We're talking about Sabarimala Darshan, a major pilgrimage site in Kerala, attracting a huge number of devotees.
That's right. And these shelters are strategically placed along the pilgrimage route to provide comprehensive support facilities, which is essential for a journey as demanding as this one.
So it's not just about offering a place to rest. It's about creating a space that's sensitive to the pilgrim's needs, both physical and spiritual. Now, the article mentions that creative architects and interiors drew inspiration from Kerala's vernacular architecture for this project. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means?
Vernacular architecture is essentially the traditional regional style of building. It's about using local materials and techniques that have been developed over generations to respond to the specific climate and cultural context of a place.
So in this case, they were looking to create shelters that felt like a natural extension of the landscape and culture of Kerala.
Exactly, and they did that by incorporating elements like sloping roofs, distinctive columns and veranda railings, eaves, gutters, and decorative bands, all features that are characteristic of traditional Kerala buildings.
And even the materials they used, clay tiles for the roofing and laterite stone cladding for the exterior walls, helped to ground the shelters in the local architectural traditions. It's about creating a sense of harmony between the structures and their surroundings. But I'm curious, beyond aesthetics, what practical purposes do these design choices serve?
Well, think about the climate in Kerala. It's hot and humid, with a monsoon season that brings heavy rainfall. So the design had to address these challenges while ensuring the comfort of the pilgrims.
Makes sense. So how do they accomplish that?
Take the sloping roofs, for example. Not only do they give the shelters a distinctive look, but they also serve a very practical purpose. They're incredibly effective for channeling rainwater away from the building. And the wide eaves and verandas provide shade from the intense sun and shelter from the rain.
That's what I love about good design. It's not just about looking good. It's about working smart. Form and function are intertwined.
Absolutely. And this approach is evident throughout the design of the shelters, for instance. They incorporated passive cooling techniques, like strategic openings for ventilation, to keep the interiors cool and comfortable, even without relying heavily on air conditioning.
So they're using the natural elements to their advantage. That's smart.
Yeah.
Especially considering the sheer number of pilgrims these shelters need to accommodate.
Exactly. And speaking of accommodating pilgrims, let's talk about functionality. The article highlights two primary needs: anathanam, which is the communal meal, and of course, resting.
Right, because this is a long and arduous journey for many of these pilgrims. They need spaces where they can replenish their energy, both physically and spiritually. So how does the design address those needs?
Well, for anathanam, the communal meal, they've designed large, open dining spaces capable of accommodating many people at once. It's about fostering a sense of community and shared experience, which is so central to the pilgrimage itself.
It creates that sense of togetherness, of being part of something larger than yourself. And what about the resting spaces? How have they been designed to promote relaxation and rejuvenation?
The dormitories are spacious and airy, even during peak season when the shelters are packed. They've minimized the use of columns, which creates a sense of openness and flow, preventing the spaces from feeling cramped or claustrophobic.
You get a sense of spaciousness even within a limited footprint, which is quite a feat. And speaking of spatial design, I'm really intrigued by these multifunctional corridors the article mentions. What makes them so special?
They play a crucial role in protecting the interior spaces from the elements. Think about a heavy downpour or the harsh midday sun. The corridors act as buffers, keeping the inner areas dry and cool, but they're also much more than just functional passageways.
Go on, I'm listening.
Think of them as liminal spaces, those in-between zones that connect different areas. In this case, the corridors connect the various parts of the shelter, while also acting as transitions between the interior and the exterior, between the built environment and the natural world.
So, as you're moving through the shelter, you're also experiencing these subtle shifts in atmosphere, these glimpses of the surrounding landscape. It's like the building itself is guiding your journey, encouraging you to connect with nature.
Precisely. And this connection to nature is further emphasized by the use of natural materials and the way the shelters are situated within the landscape.
Which brings us to the topic of sustainability. The article mentions that the architects took great care to minimize the environmental impact of the shelters. Can you tell us a little bit more about how they achieved that?
Well, as we've discussed, they prioritized local materials, which reduced transportation costs and emissions. But they also considered the life cycle of the materials, choosing durable options that will stand the test of time.
So it's about building for longevity, not just for the immediate need. What about energy efficiency? How do they address that aspect?
The design itself is inherently energy efficient. The sloping roofs, for example, not only provide shade, but also help to naturally ventilate the spaces, reducing the need for air conditioning. And the strategic placement of windows and openings maximizes natural light, minimizing the need for artificial lighting during the day.
So they're really harnessing the power of nature to create shelters that are comfortable and sustainable. It's impressive how they've managed to weave together so many different considerations. Functionality, aesthetics, culture, and sustainability into a cohesive and thoughtful design.
It speaks to the level of care and attention to detail that creative architects and interiors brought to this project.
Absolutely. And I think that's what makes this project so inspiring. It demonstrates that it's possible to create architecture that is not only beautiful and functional, but also deeply meaningful and responsive to the needs of the people who use it.
And to the needs of the planet.
Well said.
Yeah.
Before we move on to some of the specific design choices and delve deeper into how they contribute to the overall success of these shelters, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
And one element that really stands out in this project is how they tackled the challenge of accommodating large crowds during peak season. It's quite a feat to design spaces that feel comfortable even when they're packed with people.
It's about creating a sense of flow and spaciousness even within a limited footprint. How did they manage to achieve that?
Well, one key strategy was minimizing the use of columns. This opens up the interior spaces, allowing for greater flexibility and movement. You don't feel boxed in even when you're surrounded by other pilgrims.
So you're saying that even with a large number of people present, the design encourages a sense of calm and openness rather than feeling cramped or chaotic. It's almost like they've anticipated the emotional needs of the pilgrims alongside the practical ones.
Exactly. And that sensitivity to the user experience extends to other design choices as well. Take the verandas, for example. They're not just decorative elements. They serve a multitude of purposes.
I'm fascinated by the verandas. They seem to play a really important role in these shelters. Tell me more about how they enhance the pilgrim's experience.
On a practical level, they offer protection from the elements. They provide shade from the sun and shelter from the rain, creating comfortable transitional spaces between the interior and exterior.
So they offer a place to pause, to take a breath, to connect with the surroundings without being fully exposed to the elements.
Yes, exactly. And because they wrap around the buildings, they also provide additional circulation space, relieving congestion within the shelters. This helps maintain a sense of flow and movement even when the shelters are busy.
That's a clever way to manage crowds without sacrificing the feeling of spaciousness. And speaking of flow, let's circle back to those multifunctional corridors we discussed earlier. You described them as liminal spaces. What makes them so unique in the context of these shelters?
These corridors aren't just passageways. They're transitions between different areas within the shelters and between the shelters and the natural world. They create a sense of journey, of moving through space and time.
It's like each step through the shelter is a step closer to the spiritual goal of the pilgrimage.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And these corridors also offer glimpses of the surrounding landscape, reminding pilgrims of the beauty and serenity of nature.
It's that constant interplay between the built environment and the natural world that seems to be so central to the design of these shelters.
You're right. The architects were very intentional about integrating the shelters into the landscape, minimizing their environmental impact. They carefully considered the siting of the buildings, minimizing cutting and filling to preserve the natural contours of the land.
So it's not just about creating sustainable buildings, it's about creating a sustainable relationship between the buildings and the land. That's a really important distinction.
Absolutely. And this respect for the environment is also evident in their choice of materials. By using local materials like clay tiles and laterite stone, they reduce transportation costs and emissions.
It's about thinking locally and acting sustainably. It's about recognizing that the best solutions are often those that are rooted in the wisdom of the place.
And that brings us to another key aspect of this project, cultural sensitivity. The architects drew inspiration from Kerala's vernacular architecture, but they went beyond simply replicating traditional forms. They delved deeper, trying to understand the essence of what makes these buildings so meaningful.
So it's not just about aesthetics, it's about understanding the cultural significance of these design elements. Can you give us an example of how they achieved that?
Consider the use of clay tiles, for instance. They're not just a practical roofing material, they represent a long tradition of craftsmanship in Kerala. By using this material, they're connecting the shelters to the cultural heritage of the region.
It's like they're weaving the cultural narrative into the very fabric of the buildings, creating a sense of continuity between the past and the present.
Exactly. And this sensitivity to cultural context is what elevates these shelters beyond mere functional structures. They become expressions of the local identity, places where pilgrims can feel a sense of belonging and connection.
It's about creating a sense of place, a feeling of being rooted in something larger than oneself. That's a powerful concept, especially in the context of a pilgrimage.
And it's something that architects and designers should strive for in all their work. It's about creating spaces that resonate with people on a deeper level, spaces that tell a story, spaces that connect us to our cultural heritage and to the natural world.
Now, I'm curious, out of all the design elements and concepts we've discussed, what stood out to you the most in this article? Was there a particular detail or insight that really resonated with you?
What really struck me was the way the architects managed to achieve this delicate balance between seemingly opposing forces, functionality and beauty tradition, and innovation, human needs, and environmental responsibility.
It's like they've created a symphony of design where each element plays its part harmoniously.
That's a great analogy. And it's a testament to their skill and vision that they were able to pull it off so successfully. It's a project that should inspire anyone who cares about creating spaces that are both meaningful and sustainable.
I completely agree. Now, I know we've talked a lot about the overall design and concept of these shelters, but I want to delve into a few specific elements in more detail. Let's start with the sloping roof, which the article highlights as a particularly important feature. Why is this seemingly simple element so crucial to the success of the design?
The sloping roof is a brilliant example of form-following function. It not only contributes to the distinctive aesthetic of the shelters, but it also serves several crucial purposes.
I'm all ears. Tell me more about how this seemingly simple element makes such a big difference.
For one, the slope allows for efficient drainage of rainwater, which is essential in a region with heavy monsoons, but it also plays a key role in ventilation.
Ventilation, how does that work?
Well, the sloping roof creates a natural airflow through the shelters, thanks to a phenomenon known as the stack effect. Warm air rises, and the shape of the roof allows that warm air to escape through openings at the top, drawing in cooler air from below.
So the sloping roof is essentially acting like a giant chimney, naturally ventilating the shelters and keeping them cool. That's ingenious.
It is. And this passive ventilation system not only reduces the need for air conditioning, but it also creates a healthier and more comfortable environment for the pilgrims.
That's a win-win situation for everyone involved.
Exactly. And in addition to ventilation, the sloping roof also allows for ample natural light to enter the buildings further, reducing the need for artificial lighting and creating a brighter and more welcoming atmosphere.
So it's a multifunctional element that serves both practical and aesthetic purposes. It's a great example of how a simple design choice can have a significant impact on the overall experience of a space.
And it's a testament to the thoughtfulness and ingenuity of the architects. They didn't just slap a roof on these shelters, they carefully considered every aspect of its design and how it would contribute to the overall well-being of the pilgrims.
Now, I'm curious about another element that we touched on briefly earlier, the use of local materials. Can you elaborate on why this was such an important aspect of the project?
Absolutely. The choice of materials goes beyond just aesthetics. It's about connecting the shelters to the cultural and environmental context of the region. By using materials like clay tiles and laterite stone, which are readily available in Kerala, they reduced transportation costs and emissions, minimizing the carbon footprint of the project.
So it's about thinking locally and acting sustainably. It's about recognizing that The best solutions are often those that are rooted in the wisdom of the place.
Exactly. And beyond sustainability, these materials also contribute to the overall sense of authenticity and place. They create a visual connection to the vernacular architecture of Kerala, helping the shelters feel like a natural part of the landscape.
So it's about more than just building shelters. It's about creating a sense of belonging, a feeling of being rooted in something larger than oneself. That's a powerful concept, especially in the context of a pilgrimage.
And it's something that architects and designers should strive for in all their work. It's about creating spaces that resonate with people on a deeper level, spaces that tell a story, spaces that connect us to our cultural heritage and to the natural world.
I love that idea. It's about designing with intention, considering not just the function of a space, but also its emotional and cultural resonance.
Absolutely. And I think this project is a wonderful example of how that can be achieved.
I completely agree. Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground today, but I don't want to overlook another essential aspect of this project, accessibility. The article mentions that the architects made a concerted effort to ensure that the shelters are accessible to everyone, regardless of their physical abilities.
Yes, inclusivity was a top priority in this project. They designed all the buildings to be barrier-free, ensuring that everyone can experience these shelters comfortably.
Can you give us some specific examples of how they achieved that?
Well, they incorporated ramps and lifts for those who have difficulty with stairs.
Mm.
They also ensured that all the toilet facilities are accessible. They really thought about every aspect of the design and how to make it inclusive for everyone.
That's fantastic. It really speaks to the thoughtfulness and care that went into this project.
It does. And it reflects a growing awareness in the architectural community of the importance of designing for universal accessibility.
It's about creating spaces that are truly equitable, where everyone feels welcome and valued regardless of their ability.
Absolutely. And it's a principle that should guide all design, not just in public buildings like these shelters.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the specific design elements and the thought process behind them, but I want to step back for a moment and ask you, what do you think is the biggest takeaway from this project? What can other architects and designers learn from it?
I think the biggest takeaway is that it's possible to create architecture that is both beautiful and meaningful, that serves a practical purpose while also elevating the human spirit. These shelters are a testament to that belief.
It's about designing with intention, considering not just the function of a space, but also its emotional and cultural resonance.
Exactly. And I think this project is a wonderful example of how that can be achieved.
I completely agree. It's a powerful reminder that good design can make a real difference in people's lives, enhancing their experiences and connecting them to something larger than themselves.
And it demonstrates that sustainable design doesn't have to be expensive or complicated. By using simple, passive strategies like natural ventilation and rainwater harvesting, they've created shelters that are both environmentally responsible and cost-effective.
It's a win-win situation for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up this episode, I want to make sure our listeners know how to find more information about this fascinating project.
Of course. Be sure to check out the full article with images on indiaartanddesign.com. It's a beautifully written piece by name of the author at India Art and Design, and the photographs are truly stunning. We'll be sure to share the link in the show notes.
And as we conclude this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a thought-provoking question to consider. How can architecture be used to enhance experiences and support cultural traditions in other contexts?
That's a great question. It challenges us to think beyond the purely functional aspects of design and consider the ways in which architecture can shape our lives, our communities, and our relationship with the world around us.
It's about recognizing the power of design to create spaces that are not only beautiful and functional, but also deeply meaningful and enriching.
And with that, we'll wrap things up for today. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey.
It's been a pleasure sharing this deep dive with you. It's inspiring to see how creative architects and interiors, featured in this article from India Art and Design, have approached this project with such sensitivity and respect for the pilgrims, their traditions, and the environment.
Indeed. These shelters are a testament to the power of thoughtful design to elevate the human experience. They provide a sense of respite and rejuvenation for pilgrims on a journey that's both physically and spiritually demanding.
And they do so in a way that honors the local culture and seamlessly integrates with the natural beauty of Kerala.
What's particularly fascinating is how this project showcases the potential of vernacular architecture and contemporary design. It's not just about preserving the past, it's about adapting traditional wisdom to meet modern needs.
It's like they've taken the essence of Kerala's architectural heritage, the sloping roofs, the use of natural materials, the emphasis on ventilation and natural light, and reinterpreted it in a way that's both functional and beautiful.
And sustainable. Let's not forget that. By using locally sourced materials and incorporating passive design strategies, they've created shelters that are environmentally responsible and energy efficient.
It's a powerful reminder that sustainability doesn't have to come at the expense of aesthetics or functionality. In fact, it can enhance both.
Absolutely. And this project also highlights the importance of inclusivity in design. By ensuring that the shelters are accessible to everyone regardless of physical ability, they've created a truly welcoming and equitable space.
It's a testament to their commitment to creating a space that reflects the values of the pilgrimage itself: compassion, unity, and respect for all.
And it's a principle that we should all strive to incorporate into our own work, whether we're designing buildings, products, or experiences.
Accessibility shouldn't be an afterthought. It should be woven into the very fabric of the design process.
Well said. And speaking of design principles, I think it's worth noting how this project beautifully illustrates the concept of form follows function.
Oh, absolutely. Every design element serves a purpose, whether it's the sloping roof that facilitates ventilation and rainwater harvesting, or the verandas that provide shade and circulation space.
It's a reminder that good design isn't just about aesthetics, it's about creating spaces that work well and feel good.
Spaces that respond to the needs of the people who use them and the environment in which they exist.
Precisely. And I think this project offers a wealth of inspiration for architects and designers all over the world. It demonstrates that it's possible to create spaces that are not only functional and sustainable, but also deeply meaningful and culturally resonant.
It's about creating architecture that tells a story that connects us to our heritage and that inspires us to live more thoughtfully and sustainably.
Well said. So, to our listeners, if you're looking for inspiration, be sure to check out the full article by name of the author at India Art and Design, featuring these incredible Midway shelters on indiaartanddesign.com. We'll be sure to include the link in our show notes.
The article is beautifully written, and the photographs are stunning. You'll get a real sense of the care and craftsmanship that went into this project.
And if you're ever in Kerala, be sure to make the pilgrimage to Sabarimala. It's an experience that will stay with you long after you've returned home.
And with that, we'll wrap things up for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of architecture and design. We hope you found it as inspiring as we did.
It was a pleasure sharing this journey with you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those blueprints coming.
And that's a wrap for yet another episode of Blueprint Narratives. Once again, a big thank you to you, our listeners, for tuning in. We trust that you enjoyed this episode too. Please do share it with fellow designers on different groups, and let's keep the conversations going. Also, do check out indiaartanddesign.com. Until next time, stay inspired and keep shaping the world with design.